Yo, what's up everybody? I'm DualX, and I'm gonna show you this van I built real quick. I didn't really do much to the exterior. Actually, I didn't do anything to the exterior besides the stuff on the roof. I added a max air fan up there as I usually do, and I only had room for one solar panel, so I went ahead and put a 300-watt panel there. But let's get to what you're here for, which is the interior, starting off with the cab. I was actually really surprised with this van when the client dropped it off because the interior in here is in really good shape, so there really wasn't a ton of stuff that I had to restore or redo. So the only thing I actually did up here was add a radio because he said he really hated the original radio that was in here. With this one, I was able to add a backup camera to it as well so that he can see what's going on behind him while he's driving or backing up. Even though you can turn around and see through these back windows, it's just a lot easier to be able to see through here with these older vans. On this van, I decided not to put a wall in between the cab and the living area because it was already kind of small with the furniture that I put in there. I wanted it to be able to be comfortable to move from the driver's seat straight into the back so you don't have to get out and walk around. So as soon as you come right back here, then you're in the living area. So when you first come in, the first thing you're going to notice is this seating area right on the entire side of the van. And I wanted this to have enough space so that a few people could sit here and you could actually sit and cook because the height of this van is not perfect. When you stand up in here, I'm about 5'10", 5'11", and I have to stand inside of the hole for the roof vent, and I still can't really fully stand up all the way, so you don't want to be, hunched over all the time. So I decided to put the bench here so that if you were cooking or something for a longer period of time, you could kind of sit and be able to reach everything. So the client actually likes to go camping with his younger family members. So we wanted to make this into a guest bed, even though we have a full bed in the back as well. This isn't really just a face frame. This is actually the legs for the bed when it comes out. Because if you look under here, these are all slats. So when you pull this out, the whole thing slides out and it goes up until it hits the kitchen there. And then these cushions just kind of fall into place. And then this is about as wide as like an XL twin mattress, but it's not as long as you expect it to be. Like if I lay on this, you can see that my feet actually kind of hang down on the bottom down there. So this is definitely good for kids. I mean, you can sleep on here, but your feet are going to be hanging off. You can't sleep, as comfortable as you would on an actual mattress like this one back here. So if I were to take these cushions off, then you can see how this works a little bit easier. So these slats, they're just a friction fit and they pull in and out like this. And like I said, when they're out, this face frame is actually the leg for the bed when it's out. So it's supported in 3 points all the way down. But when it's closed, I wanted to make this a storage area. So this is also on a hinge and it lifts up. And then when it's up, then you have access to the refrigerator. I wanted to put the fridge here because it's right across from the kitchen, so you could have this open while you're cooking. And it's not a huge fridge, but it works out really well for a van of this size. And then you'll also notice that I put ventilation on the sides of this so that it's not completely locked in there and the fridge will actually work. That would be nice if the fridge worked, wouldn't it? But when this is down, that's when it's in couch mode, slide it out, then it's in bed mode. So we've got storage mode, bed mode, and couch mode. I always like to put the switches right at the front when you come in through the door so that you can see what you're doing. If it's dark in here, you can just turn the lights on. I have a lot of lights in here, but these main two switches are for the main and secondary lights. The secondary ones are underneath these upper cabinets that go around the entire van, and they're dimmable as well, so you can get the right lighting dialed in. This other one is for the main lights, also dimmable, and I incorporated those into this custom slatted ceiling that I put in. This took me a pretty long time. It was a little bit difficult to do because I had to resaw all of my wood down to 1/4 of an inch and then get them all to specific sizes to fit in here and actually look cohesive. But the client really likes how it came out, so I'm glad that I did it. These upper cabinets that go around the van have these special hinges that have springs in them that hold the cabinets up. I used to use gas struts to hold them up, but I really like these a lot better because they are a hinge, so you can just simply install one piece of hardware and then you're good to go for these. And like I said, we have these all the way around the van. And I like doing this because it just adds a lot of storage to an area that wouldn't have as much otherwise. I had to put these at an angle here so that when you're sitting down, your head won't hit. And I had to put it at an exact height. You have a torso length and a head length. And I had to make sure that I had the measurement right so that when you're sitting here, you're not, having to duck under that. And I had to include that measurement when I built this bench with the cushion as well. So a lot of measurements went into this, but I'm really glad that it actually came out to where you can actually sit down and stand up, and you don't even have to really worry about this being here. You're not going to hit your head or anything when you go down, and you'll still have that storage up there like an airplane. Like I said before, right across from the seat is the kitchen area. I knew that I didn't have a ton of space because of the size and shape of this van, so I didn't want to have anything coming out like a faucet or burners or anything that would hinder you from utilizing prep space, because we only have really about a 3-foot space here. The sink has a cutting board that's inset in it to allow the entire thing to be a counter space, like I said. But when you remove it, you can see that this sink has an inset shelf. Mount a faucet in here to allow you to have more space when that's closed. But once it is up and you want to use the water, there's a switch that I put here, and when you flip that, that controls the water pump that's mounted underneath this cabinet here, and then you can access the water like this. When you're running the water in these cabinets underneath, I just wanted to put a simple system in this van. So we just put 2 6-gallon jugs down here, and I ran all of my plumbing contained in this cabinet. We just have a water pump here that's pulling water out of this fresh water tank. It goes on a splitter to the sink faucet up here, and there's also an outdoor shower that's in the back that we'll get to. And then when the water comes down through the drain, it just comes through here straight into this gray water tank. All you do is just pull this tube out, and then you can just pull this out and dump it out anywhere. And then the same thing to fill this up here. The stove is also covered similar to the sink, but this one is glass, and it has these knobs on the front so that you can control the flame size. And we have our propane for this mounted in the back of the van. We'll get to that a little bit later. But the way that you open this up is by flipping this back, and it folds up, and then that becomes a backsplash for whatever you're cooking. And we also have this other backsplash wall right next to it so that we have a good area that's blocked off so that nothing's like splashing into your bed area. And when you have your gas turned on, all you do is press these buttons, and there's an electronic starter that allows you to turn these flames on, and you can cook whatever you need to cook in here. I always like to have the roof vents for these right above the stove so that you can have proper ventilation while you're cooking. By mounting the propane in the back of the van, that allowed me to have a lot more space underneath this than you traditionally would. So that gave me all this space to put drawers in. And on all of these drawers, I installed these push button latches that when you pull it out, you can see when you press it in, this gives you a lip that kind of holds on to the inside of the cabinet so that while you're driving, this cabinet isn't going to move anywhere. But when you push it open, it also gives you a handle to pull it. So it's a really tiny area, and you don't want stuff getting caught on your pants or something while you're walking by. So this is a nice flush area. And I also put those over here on the water cabinet that I mentioned earlier. But this client did say that he wanted to have some entertainment in here, and obviously the seat is here, so I really wanted to give him a spot to have that. So I decided to build in a custom lift up TV that's in the back of this kitchen. So I had to custom make this because, again, this is such a narrow area that's even narrow for the stuff that I usually make. So I wasn't able to use a traditional TV lift the way that I did it in the past. So I just kind of fabricated one with locking drawer slides, not knowing if it was going to work, but it ended up working out pretty well for a smaller TV like this. And so you're able to kind of sit back and you can watch stuff while you cook. You can watch stuff in bed, and you can see it pretty much from anywhere in the van because it's so small in here. And I also put a few other outlets around the van. There's one here so that you can run kitchen appliances like a blender or air fryer or something like that. And then there's another outlet across on the other side if you wanted to use this to charge your devices or whatever you're gonna do. This client is actually a writer, so I wanted to make sure that he had enough space to do what he needed to do with his writing stuff. And I even kind of custom built in a spot for some of the books that he wrote in here. Over here, I also put in a charging area. You can just charge your stuff straight from here. You don't need to have like a charging brick for your phone or something plugged in on that side. And I put another one back here next to the bed so that you can charge your devices while you're in bed as well. Like I said, it's a pretty tight area in here, so just putting a few outlets around kind of gives you a spot to use electricity anywhere. So when you lock this down, it's pretty easy. You just pull it back down manually, and you can see I cut these slits out that account for these handles, and that just sits right on top of there, and then it's just basically a flat countertop again. And then over here, this is the bed, and I designed the couch cushion here so that it's a little bit easier to get up because I made it kind of high so you can just step out onto the cushion and then you can get into the bed. I just did it weirdly rolling over, but you don't have to roll over like that if you don't want to. I also designed all of these upper cabinets the same way that I had it over there. I needed to make it so that you can lay down here comfortably without like hitting your head when you're getting up and laying down in here. So because this van originally did not have this roof cap on it, there were these sections here and in the front of the van that were basically the original roof height, and they just kind of cut out this middle section to make it a little bit taller. So what I did was just build in some deep storage cabinets on both sides, front and back of the van, and on this side here, underneath where the bed is, I put some more puck lights here that are dimmable as well. The switch for the lights above the bed are right over here, and like I said, they're dimmable, so when you can have these as low or as high as you want them to be. You can turn them off, turn them on without, you know, having to get up and go over there and control the lights for the whole thing. You can just have them off, be in bed, you know, you hear a noise outside or you want to just get up in the middle of the night, you can just turn the light on and you're good to go. And then, like I said earlier, there's two USBs over here as well that run off of 12 volt. So you don't have to have your AC stuff running to control all that. The actual bed itself is equivalent to about a full size. It's the full width, and I had to cut maybe 2 inches off of it. So like I said before, I'm about 5'10", 5'11", and I have full room to just lay down here. So I would say up to 6 foot, you're probably good. My hair gives me an extra inch or two straight up that's not included in my height. So I would say if you're 6 foot, this is perfectly fine to lay this way, but you'd have way more room if you just kind of laid in an angle like this. But I don't really think that's necessary unless you're just a super tall person, 6'2", 6'3". This type of van probably isn't for you anyway. The windows on either side of the bed have a slide out portion with a screen that was already in here. Good to have for where this bed is, because then you can turn on the fan up there and have a pretty decent cross breeze from either side of the bed, whether it's for whichever side you decide to put your head on. So in the back here, this is where all of the important stuff goes that runs everything on the inside. I wanted to put as much space for storage under here as possible because there's really not a ton of storage space on the inside of the van in the living space. And I also wanted to be able to see what's going on back here. So I added one final switch back here that controls the light that's back here. So you can see what you're doing if you need to come back here at night. You have full visibility. And then I put this boat flooring material down because it's rubber, waterproof. It's got grip to it as well, so you can put your stuff down and it won't slide around. A ton of space here, and like I said, you can access all of your stuff that you're storing back here from the inside because this is a pass-through, or you can get to the electrical stuff if you need to get to it quickly from in there and you don't want to come out and around to the back of the van. Earlier, I was telling you guys about the propane that was in the back. So this is where the propane is mounted. It's in an airtight box with compression locks on it. So when you pull these latches out, there's two on this side and then two on the other side. And then when this opens up, you can see the propane that's in here. There's a hole in the bottom of this cabinet so that that's the only place where air can escape. And I've explained this a bunch of times in my videos, but the thing that you're worried about with propane is not blowing up like a lot of people think. It's really just that if you have a propane leak, it can remove the oxygen in the room, especially in a tiny area like this, and you can suffocate. But propane is heavier than air, so it always goes down. So if you just drill a hole underneath, it's basically like this being mounted outside of the van. And I used a full-size regular like barbecue one so that you can just grab and take these and exchange them basically anywhere that they sell these, at gas stations, hardware stores, wherever, and you don't have to worry about going somewhere where you need to have it refilled and keep the same tank. And it's like, what is it, $20 to $25 to just exchange these. I also mentioned earlier when I was talking about the sink that we had some plumbing coming back here, and that's for this outdoor shower that we have back here. This is all run from the same water and water pump from up there in the front, and I installed this special shower hose that is used in RVs a lot that has a stop switch on it. So if you press this button, then your water's coming out, and if you press it again, then you don't have it coming out, so you're not constantly wasting water. And also it's just a lot easier to do it all just from here instead of having to mess with the knobs and stuff like that. And then this has a couple different shower modes that you can use, and then you can clean your boots off, wash your dog. I always play with my dog back here, or you can actually take a shower. He wanted to have a little bit of privacy for his outdoor shower, so here we go. We've got a dowel that you just stick it up right here and throw your curtain on there, and then you have this entire area right here of privacy, and you can do what you need to do at the beach, whatever, and nobody can see what you're doing. On this side, this is where all the electrical stuff is that runs everything in the van. Like I mentioned earlier, we've got the solar panel up on the roof, and that charges this up, and you can also charge this from the engine as well while you're driving. I like these because they're really easy to use. You can just simply press your buttons here so you can see what's going on the screen. You can easily turn off your DC and AC power. There's also this port right here that you use to charge up from just an extension cord from a house or shore power. All of this is running out into our fuse box that's over on the other side. There's just two plugs on the front of this power station. One of them is for the DC and one of them is for the AC. So if you wanted to disconnect this from everything, all you do is unplug those two and pull it right out. Over here, this is our main fuse, and our cutoff switch for the DC is here, and our cutoff switch for the solar is right here. And then these two right here are basically just giving us some terminals so that it's kind of like a regular battery. So if you wanted to add something, you can add it straight onto there. All of this DC stuff and AC stuff is going in through this combination fuse panel and breaker box. These are controlling all of the outlets that are in the van. All the fuses are on this side. That controls all of our 12-volt stuff like the lights, the fan, the fridge, and you can easily just change out fuses right from here. under the bed, or you can also do it from the inside because there's actually a pass-through door in here where we're filming through right now that you can open and close from there, and you can access this stuff whether you're in there or you're coming through the back door like I am right now. Thank you guys for watching this video all the way to the end. Just a quick one, just showing you this van kind of in a little bit more detail, since I know you've seen me build it in the previous video. If you haven't seen me build that yet in the previous video, then make sure you check that video out. It's going to be on the screen right now. And I'm going to be building a few more vans, so stay tuned for those. I'll be seeing you in the next one. Later.